Amazing panel or whatever this magical moment with Sarah and Rain. Holy shit! Can we give them another round of applause? I was told you were here and you're up. Thank God. Patrick, should we have another round of applause for Patrick?
Yeah. I'm gonna go here. Sure.
Wow. So, fuck.
Everyone shake it off.
Yeah. I feel like your performances are stunning. I mean, just that's an understatement. And how did you, I think, this is just one of the billion questions I have, but can you share about casting these two amazing folks? And then also, how did you guys all come together? Let's start with that.
So Patrick was cast in the movie first. He sent in an audition, and I can say this because my sister's in the audience. I've been looking for a Jamie for a while, and then I showed this tape to my sister because I was like, this is something, right? And I had an idea of who I was going to give the role to, another Irish actor, and I showed Patty's tape to my sister, and my sister was like, the movie's going to be bad if you don't cast this guy. She was right. So Patrick, he was the first actor attached to the film, and made my dreams come true.
Well, Rain, would you mind sharing with us, what was this, I don't actually, it's funny because I don't know how old you are in real life, but somehow I felt like I fully believed you were a teenager, and over the course of the film, you became such an adult in a kind of terrifying, awesome way. Would you mind sharing like your transformation over the course of the performance of the film and some of the things that helped you in your work on your role?
Yes. I think like obviously there, it's a heavy subject, and diving into like heavier material like that, number one, is like my favorite thing in the world, and thank you, Sarah, for allowing me to participate. So I think doing the work to get to a dark place, and then and finding out, figuring out like how I can heal certain, elements of that in myself for Jane, like where have I, isolated myself, where have I felt this like, loneliness, and or a part of, apart from, separate than, and how can I like go back into my teenage self and remember what that feels like, or what that feels like at times even now, it's like healing whatever versions of myself like need to be healed through doing this work. And so I think, yes, Jane evolves, but like I do simultaneously, and I'm able to, go back to like my teenage self and be like, yeah, let's go there. Let's get really dark so that we can kind of put some light into it and understand it and ultimately heal that version.
So it's this ensemble that you all created, that you were part of, felt so authentic and real throughout the whole process. And you made this in a bunch of amazing one-ers, and I'm so curious about your rehearsal process, and because even as a one-er, often, like, I won't say their names, but even I feel like very huge directors do one-ers, and you like half the performances, you're like, ugh. It's a one-er, so you gotta have to like forgive the performance because it's they had to do it a bunch of times, but this like the authenticity was so alive. How was the rehearsal And how was the rehearsal different than what maybe landed in the film? What level of improv and all that? How did you come to these magical? Yeah.
Well, the cinematographer is also in the audience. His name is Jake Sainer. And Jake and I have been working together since my first short film in college, so that doesn't hurt. So we had like a shorthand, and we did a short film as well to try and like test out the method. And I had worked with a lot of directors that had done oneers, and so I'd sort of studied what had worked and what hadn't worked. And to your point, it is really, really challenging to keep like 12 people. Like normally you shoot a movie and you have a bunch of coverage and you pick everybody's best take, right? Like that's fair. In this, everyone had to have their best take in the same take. And so, I mean, I got really lucky. The ensemble was, they were genuinely very close. They became very, very close. And they also allowed, they just jumped in. They like let that kind of shooting process happen. There wasn't a lot of rehearsing, really. I mean, we did blocking rehearsals with camera for sure, but a lot of what happened is that we shot the first half of the movie in 2020 before COVID, and it was a lot of the family stuff. And then and then we shut down for a whole year and shot another 11 days of this movie in 2021 with all of the kids and all of the younger ensemble. And so they had genuinely like fallen in love with each other and become close over that year, and also been cooped up in their homes. And so like all that energy you see on screen is just like they were like so happy to be let out of their homes. And I don't know, it's a bit of a cop out, but it really just is them. Like they really trusted this weird approach, and it could have been really boring. Honestly, it's really hard to keep up pace and energy in long shots, but these two and their chemistry, like it was easy to capture.
And Patrick, so at some point in the film, I was like, I get why she's in love with him. She's just screwed. You know what I mean? You're so, and like we go all the way in, and your performance is incredible in that way. I don't even think we like hate you and love you. We just love you. You know what I mean? In a terrible way. So would you share like what were some of the challenges or like hardest parts of playing this role, and then what were some of the sort of like surprising, wonderful parts, I guess?
Yeah, thank you. I think it is always difficult when you play a character that you can very easily look at from the outside and judge from the outside, and I think we do that so much anyway, and we're all sort of hardwired to do that. And when you read something initially, you kind of do that. But I think what Sarah had done so incredibly in her script was to paint it from Jane's perspective. And so in reading it, I saw Jamie through Jane's eyes and kind of saw this sympathetic side of him. And also just saw somebody that really needed to be loved, and kind of go to any length to get that. And there were a few moments when we would talk about things from outside of that perspective, and it felt really weird and kind of really wrong in a way to kind of to look at Jamie from my perspective, because I'm like, fuck this guy, but at the same time, I think when you have that need for love and you haven't gotten it in other ways from a young age, then the lengths that you will go to get it in a very selfish way is kind of terrifying. And I guess that was kind of where a lot of it came from.
Thank you. What were some of the big, for any of you, what were some of the big surprises on set? Some of the things that either went away you didn't expect in a, like a delightful way or in a scary way? And what are some of the fun stories, I guess I'm trying to, dig for your on-set stories?
Yeah, I have have one. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is like, you know, the scene where he's like, if you don't say you're gonna be with me next week, I'm gonna jump out of the car. We were like on the PCH, and there's there's no protection, you know, like he's opening the door and there's real people driving, and not a trailer. And other people too, and I thought that was really kind of fun, you know.
I also prefer driving on the left-hand side of the road. So when you bring me in on day 2 to land in LA and do this, it is at your own risk.
We
Yeah,
shot that
these
scene
roads are
first day
blocked
back.
off.
Yeah, it was first day back from COVID.
Yeah.
I'm really glad Sarah cut out freestyle rap that I attempted to do. You did me a solid there when you said you chose the best takes. That was definitely that.
I want to see the footage of that.
You came in hot with the pancake joke.
Yes.
Wait, use your mic.
Oh, sorry.
What the pancake? What was their joke?
Jamie tells Jane that she can't eat pancakes because they're French. Because she says he can't listen to rap because he's Irish.
Don't worry, Sarah didn't write that.
I wrote none of that movie, actually.
Well, that is another question I have: is what % of what we saw is improvised, and how did you craft that? And then what % is your script? I'm so curious.
It's mostly.
I usually answer this question. This question gets asked a lot at Q&As. I'm actually so curious to hear what the cast has to say about that.
I think it's mostly script, honestly. There was I think Owen makes me laugh so much, everything he said. That was not scripted. A lot of that. And yeah, like a lot of the ensemble stuff, like the stuff in the car and things like that. But I don't know, for the most part, it was pretty true to what was on the page. So, testament to Sarah.
That reminds me, I think there's a few cast members in the audience. Would you mind standing up if you're in the cast or crew? I'm in, and we can give you a round of applause. Well, let's open it up to you guys. I'm sure you have your own questions. Feel free to scream them at us and we'll answer. Does anyone have a question in the audience? Oh yes, back there. Yeah.
I'd like to hear more about your acting process, just for those really heavy, intense scenes.
Like 10 minutes. I mean, I do the work, the script work, and work with the coach, and do all like the stuff beforehand. But then when I got there, it was a lot of listening to music really loud and like hiding from everyone, and then being like, "Are you ready? Okay, I'm gonna go out there now." Yeah, I don't know if that's like the best, like coolest answer, but it's a lot of like blasting whatever song makes me feel the way I need to feel for that moment, and then like or like a really fun one is like, when you have triggering songs from your past where you're like, this makes me feel terrible. That's a good trick.
Our music supervisor is also here. There's no actual written score to this movie, really. There are like two like tiny little moments of score, but mostly it's just it's diegetic sounds with like music coming from the radio and music coming from the laptop, and that was a really, really challenging job. So that was a lot of hard work. What's her name? Angela.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I think, Rain was doing most of the heavy lifting, but Sarah just created such, Sarah just knows what people need in the moment, and not just what people need, but just how to create an atmosphere where it feels like really safe and intimate. And you forget that everyone's going to be watching it on a screen, which I'm very glad I forgot at the time, because that is rough. But yeah, I think getting feeling safe, I think, is like one of the most important things, and it can be one of the hardest things to feel, especially, you know, when you've got a lot of people looking at you and a camera pointing at you and stuff. And I think I guess it's not a very actionable answer, because it's just finding people who, you know, you can trust and you can like open yourself to and feel comfortable with.
1000%.
So when you say she made us feel safe, how did you do it? Or how did you feel safe? What did she say? You know what I mean? That made you feel safer. What was it just kind of the conversations that you had ahead of time, or because it is very deep. Like obviously this is your life story that you're sharing. So I would imagine there were a lot of conversations ahead of time. And how did you build the world ahead of the shoot all together?
It's funny because it's like talking about process is so weird, because I don't know how other people would approach this material. I definitely cast from a place of wanting to work with people that it was a very intimate environment. It was very like I really cared about them so much, and I care about these characters, and I care about the characters that they're inspired by, and to Patrick's point earlier, I really love Jamie. I really love that character, and I don't know, I was protective of them. I'm still very protective of them. Even when I hear people laugh in the audience or respond to them, like it moves me so much, and I was very protective of them on set. I don't know, I just sort of approached them like they were my family, and I don't know if it will always be like that with my work, but I usually write from a pretty personal place, and so I know in the casting process if I'm meeting an actor that's going to like take a skydive with me or like leap off a cliff hand in hand, and they showed up really ready to do that.
That's okay. Does anyone else have a question in the audience? Yeah, right here.
My question is for Sarah. You and Jake just did